As well, the House of Representatives has just passed legislation that would decriminalize marijuana. Why would they want to do that? And what would it mean for our country if they do? At the end of the program, Disney has received a lot of attention in the last couple of weeks because of their opposition to parental rights. The release of several videos of Disney executives discussing how and why they do what they do is revealing. What can Disney teach the church about discipleship? We'll talk about that in our Worldview segment. But first, the headlines. Prices are rising, the border crisis is worsening, and the war in Ukraine is raging. Amid all this, President Biden and his administration is focused mostly on transgenderism. Yesterday, the White House announced several initiatives as part of the Transgender Day of Visibility. And in his remarks yesterday, President Biden made it clear that his administration is not just promoting transgenderism here and there, but everywhere.
This administration is standing up for you against all these hateful bills, and we're committed to advancing transgender equality in the classroom, on the playing field, at work, in our military, in our housing and healthcare systems, everywhere, simply everywhere.
Everywhere, simply everywhere. What does everywhere look like? The White House gave us a peek yesterday, and here to tell us more about what the Biden administration is doing on this is FRC's Marjorie Jackson. Marjorie, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Joseph.
So give us some detail yesterday, the Transgender Day of Visibility. What were some of the policies the White House announced?
Yes. So last year, on March 31st, Biden proclaimed March 31st as International Transgender Day of Visibility, which should come as no surprise to those who voted for him, considering that one of his campaign promises was to be the most LGBTQ-forward president in the history of America. So some of those policies that were discussed in the White House statement include that there will be an X gender marker in several forms of documentation starting April 11th. One of the most notable is that passports will now have an X gender marker alongside male and female. In addition to that, students who are looking to file for financial aid for college when they're filling out the FAFSA will now be able to provide gender identity information. Not only is the X gender marker one of the more radical seeming policies that are being pushed, but the White House is now broadening access to continually to gender affirming care, in their words, describing social affirmations, puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender affirming surgeries.
And for the first time, it appears that the Biden administration, on behalf of the country, is actually encouraging things like surgical and chemical castration, and in ways they've kind of been affirmative of the movement in general, but not specifically the surgeries, and that's very concerning. But yesterday, also, the White House statement, they condemned, quote, the proliferation of dangerous anti-transgender legislative attacks around the country. What are they referring to there?
Sure. So Biden was referring to these various hateful so-called anti-transgender bills. One of the ones that you may have seen recently in the news is the Florida Parental Rights and Education Bill. It's been getting a lot of traction in the news for prohibiting classrooms from instructing kindergartners through third graders on sexual orientation and gender identity. Another notable one is that in Arizona and Oklahoma, there are laws that prohibit biological men from competing in women's sports. Last year, Arkansas and several other states passed the SAFE Act, which is Saving Adolescents from Experimentation, which was banning gender-affirming procedures for minors. So those are some of the different bills that Biden is calling hateful.
But to be clear there on that point, Marjorie, Arkansas has passed the SAFE Act. Several other states are moving it presently, and we expect more to pass it this year. But I believe Arkansas is the one that has passed it fully. But the history of this is important as well. The Biden-Harris administration emphasis on this issue didn't start yesterday. What else have they done since the beginning of their administration to prioritize this agenda?
Well, you're right in saying that, Joseph. I mean, this is a campaign promise that Biden has continually followed through on in very much pushing pro-LGBTQIA legislation. So in addition to condemning these anti-transgender state legislation, Biden almost immediately upon taking office reversed Trump's ban on the transgender service members serving in the military. And not only is he allowing them to serve in the military, but he is allowing for government funding of what they're calling gender-affirming care. Now, in addition to that, Biden continues to press Congress to pass the Equality Act, which some are calling a direct hit on religious liberty, as it plans to codify some sexual orientation and gender identity issues into American civil rights.
Marjorie Jackson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Joseph.